This is what is called a nuke, a 5-frame Langstroth, essentially. And it's made the exact same way. It's just smaller. And you put 5 frames in here. It's got a little bitty entrance seducer. It's got a screen bottom board on it. It's got a deep body here. And, you know, you could put another one on here, like a super. But it's the same exact thing. The only thing is it's smaller. And why is it smaller? Because these are intended for, you know, sometimes for queen rearing, sometimes for when beekeepers sell nucleuses. And this is the same thing with this Pro Nuke. This is just a lot cheaper. I think these are like maybe $30 on Amazon or so. But a beekeeper will establish a nuke, it's called a short for nucleus, inside one of these. And this is for you as a new beekeeper. If you reach out to a beekeeper and you want to purchase a nucleus of bees, they will have that ready for you in a package, something similar to this. There's all sorts of different brands of those. The Pro Nuke, there's all sorts of ones. Some made out of cardboard. Anyway, what is a nucleus? And you'll also see maybe a package of bees. So when you first go out and you start looking, well, okay, you made the decision, I want to be a beekeeper. I've bought all the equipment that I think I need online. The next thing is, where do I get my bees? Well, I'm always going to advocate for you to get your bees locally. So wherever you live, jump on Facebook, you know, reach out to your local beekeeping Facebook page if they have one. Call your local extension office. Find out if there is a local beekeeping club and join that club. I would recommend a year before you ever buy any bees. They will take you out to their apiary. You'll get some hands-on experience because until you are actually in a hive, in an apiary surrounded by 10,000 flying bees, you really don't know how you're going to act. And if this is something that you're going to enjoy, or you're going to get very panicky and antsy and this, I just can't do it. I've seen it time and time again. It's just too much for me. And then you've invested all this money, spent $1,000, and you don't even want to do it. So do yourself a favor and try to get involved in a local community or a local bee club where you can get some hands-on experience first. So the two different types of bees that you can buy is a nucleus and a package. A nucleus, and each has its pros and cons. A nucleus of bees is already a colony that is established. And so me as a beekeeper, I would have 5 frames in here with a queen that's laying. It's going to have food in here, pollen, brood. It's going to have 5 frames of bees, and you can expect about 3,000 to 5,000 bees per pound. And a lot of times, you know, these nucleuses, at least the good ones, you know, they'll be completely cut, 5 frames covered with bees, right? But it's an established colony. But the downside is so the advantage is when you put it in your apiary, the queen's laying, she's going, that colony is already taken off and ready to go. So you're going to get a much quicker head start. The downside is these don't ship well. You know, it's fragile. You got the frames in there, the comb, the brood, it's all fragile. So you're not going to ship this across the country. So you would need to buy a nucleus from somebody that you are close to, that you could drive to and physically pick the bees up and transport back to your property. The other is a package of bees. And a package of bees is shippable because it's literally just a box full of bees and a queen. The downside is there's no frames, the colony is not established. The queen may not even be mated yet. She's not laying. A lot of times that queen didn't even come from the same colony as those package of bees. Those package of bees were a colony that the beekeeper took up and shook all the bees out into a box, and that became a package. And then a lot of times we'll take a queen from somewhere else and put it in there. So the bees may not have accepted that queen as theirs yet. So there's more risks involved with a package. It's harder for them to get started. And as soon as you put them in your apiary and you shake them into your box or your Langstroth, they're starting from square one. So it's going to take them a lot longer for that colony to get started. But again, the advantage is you can ship those. So pros and cons to each one. So let's talk about some of the PPE that you're going to need if you're getting into beekeeping, at least at a minimum. So everybody's familiar for the most part with a bee suit. So this, they make jackets like this, and they also make full-length suits all the way down to your feet. This is, this jacket is made with a breathable mesh, and it has a foam sort of material in the middle of it that is meant to provide gaps in spacing such that a bee can't sting through it. Same with this veil. The veil goes over your head. It allows you the ability to see, but not take stings to the face, which is where bees typically will target first. From natural predators, bears, coons, skunks, they will go towards the eyes. So that's the public service announcement, safety message, I would say. At a minimum, when you are just getting started with beekeeping, you may have been on TikTok and Facebook and, seen this Texas bee lady who loves to just show the world how, she takes care of bees with her perfect hair and makeup on and no PPE whatsoever. That is not realistic, and that is not safe. With that said, as a brand new beekeeper, the bare minimum you need to do is cover your eyes. Maybe you're fine taking stings to the face and the hands and the arms and the legs, and that's fine. Stings don't bother me that much either, but I still don't want to take one to the eyeball. So at a minimum, glasses or some type of veil. You'll see some beekeepers that just wear a veil and they work in their t-shirts and shorts, and that's fine. Why? Because it's hot. Remember what I was saying? It's stuffy in these things. It's very uncomfortable. So sometimes, I'm fine taking 1 or 2 stings. And if I just put a veil on and work the bees when it's super, 95 degrees outside, it's fine, right? But it's a calculated risk. But at a minimum, you should always have something over your face, I would say, until you've been keeping bees for a while, and maybe you can read the bees a little bit better, but these are still insects and they have a mind of their own. So I always recommend at a minimum, you have something covering your face. When you're first starting, you should have a full jacket, wear some jeans if you want, have the full suit. And also I recommend using gloves when you're first starting out. If you're fine not using gloves, it's better to not use gloves. You have obviously much more dexterity. You can feel better. If you watch any of my other videos, sometimes I use gloves, sometimes I don't. The reason is really what kind of mood the bees are in. If I can tell they're pretty feisty and they just don't want to be messed with, and I just don't feel like taking a bunch of stings to my hand, then I'll glove up. A lot of times when I'm capturing swarms, they're gentle. I won't use any gloves. Or if it's a nice day and I can tell the bees are pretty calm, I won't use gloves. But I almost always have something, almost always, over my face or over my eyes. In rare instances, I don't. But again, I think that's the number one safety disclaimer that I would give to a new beekeeper is make sure that you wear your PPE when you're out with your bees until you have a lot of experience and you get to that point where you can read the bees a little better. The other equipment that you're going to need is a hive tool. Now, a hive tool, and they make these in different shapes and sizes, but this is a leverage tool. That's what it's used for. It's used for leverage. It's used to prop equipment apart when the bees propolize it. It's used to manipulate frames in the colony. Use this J-hook to pull a frame up so you can pull the frame straight up with the bees, do your examinations, or it's meant to pry. So if these are stuck together, bees will propolize this. These frames get stuck together. You use this 90 degree and you use leverage to push them apart and create spacing in here so that you can easily pull this frame out without rolling and killing bees. God forbid, rolling your queen and killing your queen. So that's all part of inspections that you'll use this tool when you're getting into a hive, but you absolutely have to have one of these. And whether you have one that has a J-hook on it, this is a flat edge here that can be used to scrape off propolis, scrape off honeycomb, but this is an absolutely required piece of beekeeping equipment for any beekeeper. I mean, I don't know any beekeeper that doesn't have a hive tool. Along the same lines, every beekeeper, at least I shouldn't say every, vast majority of beekeepers have a smoker. So what is a smoker? It's something that produces smoke, right? So a smoker is a beekeeper's best friend, and we use smoke in beekeeping for a couple of reasons. So the bees have a Koshevnikov gland, I believe that's how it's pronounced, and that gland produces an alarm pheromone. So if you were to just go out in the bee yard, most times, start banging around in this, pop the top off, you're going to make a lot of bees angry and they're going to come flying out at you, right? Well, they release a pheromone from their gland that alarms the other bees that, hey, there's danger in here. And it smells like bananas. A lot of beekeepers will say that alarm pheromone smells like bananas. So why do we use smoke? Well, we use smoke for two reasons. Number one, it masks that alarm pheromone. So if we're getting ready to do an inspection, we've got our smoker fuel in here, and this is lit and puffing out cool smoke, not hot smoke. You don't want to burn your bees. It'll be a cool smoke. And this is just a bellow that fills with air, and it pushes air at the bottom of the smoker, and the smoke comes out of the top. And so we will put some smoke in here, and that does two things to the bees. Number one, it masks that alarm pheromone, so they don't smell that or sense it, the banana smell. Number two, they think their house is on fire. And if your house was on fire, you would try to get out as quickly as possible, but you might be inclined to grab maybe some of your most cherished memorabilia, if possible, on the way out, right? The bees are doing the same thing. So they think their house is on fire. They immediately go into gorging themselves on the honey and the nectar that's in the colony because they're getting ready to jump ship. And so why does that matter? Well, they're not worried about Mr. or Mrs. Beekeeper anymore, right? So if I smoke them, number one, they can't alarm each other. And number two, I don't care who this guy is or gal is that's trying to get in our house. My house is on fire. I need to get all my food and get out of here. That's why. So that's why we smoke bees. It's a way to calm the bees down, prevent them from getting extremely agitated to where they want to attack you, and ultimately it just makes your job a lot easier during inspections. And a little bit of smoke goes a long way. You don't have to engulf the whole hive inside with smoke. But at a minimum, you're going to want to get a hive tool, you're going to want to get a smoker, and you're going to want to get some clothing, PPE, in terms of a bee suit and gloves. So, what else? You need to do your research ahead of time. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, spend time reading books. And I think one of the best books for a new beekeeper that's kind of universally accepted from beekeepers is Beekeeping for Dummies. And I can't remember who the author is, but it's the yellow book. It's like all the For Dummies books. But it does a really good high-level overview of Beekeeping 101 basics. Read those books. Watch YouTube videos from reputable beekeepers to learn techniques. That's what I did. I mean, I probably watched 500 hours of beekeeping videos before I ever got my first colony. I joined my local bee club. I probably read 10 to 15 different books. I went to my farmer's market and talked to some beekeepers. I reached out to some local beekeepers in my community. Do all those things ahead of time, because the time and the effort that you put on the front end will pay dividends for you on the back end. And the general rule of thumb is, I think, a year ahead of time. So like a year worth of reading and educating yourself, and maybe getting some hands-on experience with fellow beekeepers in your community working with bees. Because that's going to tell you whether you even like this or not. If you've never worked with bees before, you have no idea what to expect. And all these videos that you watch online, including mine and everyone else's, I mean, that's our experience, and how we are relating to the bees, and how they're interacting with us, and how I react to certain situations. You may have a completely different experience or react a completely different way. The other thing is, and I'll go ahead and say that too, it's another safety protocol. Make sure you have an EpiPen before you install your first nucleus or package of bees. Because even if you're not allergic to bee stings, you could become allergic to it at any time. I keep EpiPens around me. I have EpiPens. Even though I'm not allergic to bee stings, it could happen at any point in time. So do yourself a favor, Be safe. Rather be safe than sorry. Go ahead and talk to your allergist and get a couple EpiPens to keep on you while you're working with bees. I think that's it. Just have fun. Um, Beekeeping, I think a lot of new beekeepers get scared. There's a lot of unknown with it. My own, I'll try not to go on a rant here. My own personal opinion is I think we as beekeepers don't do enough to help new people come into the art of keeping bees. There are so many different ways to successfully keep bees that the human nature of wanting to point out and argue about our differences creates this helter-skelter. And I've seen it in many, beekeeping meetings where beekeepers will argue, I do it this way, well, I do it that way. And the new beekeeper is over there like completely overwhelmed. Like they have no idea. They don't even know where to start. And so what ends up happening is beekeepers will say, like they'll give this disclaimer, well, I do it this way, but that's just the way I do it. You can do it this way or you could do it that way, but this is the way I do it. Another beekeeper's like, well, I do it this way, but you can do it that way. And the way that Joe does it's fine. And the way that Susie's doing it's okay too, but I do it this way. And the new beekeeper has no clue, which, they just want to be told one way to start with and go with that. But we don't want to say emphatically this is the only way to do something because another beekeeper standing over our shoulder saying, no, that's not correct, right? So again, I'm trying not to get on a soapbox here, but it's a pet peeve of mine that I think we turn a lot of new beekeepers away by overwhelming them with the amount of options available and all the different ways that you can correctly and successfully keep bees. And so what I've tried to do is I've tried to tell new beekeepers, try it this way. See how it works for you. Try this. Try 10 frame length straw. See how it works for you. If you like it, great. If not, maybe try something different. And over time, you will experience what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And as you grow in your experience, the options won't be so overwhelming. But on your very first day, you don't even know, again, you don't know right from wrong. You don't know what could be beneficial, what could be dangerous. And so that's why you need to do your research and your homework and read up for a year before you start to get bees. And you also need to, one other thing I would say is make sure that you have a good location to keep bees. So the best location is having the hives face the east so that when the sun comes up, it hits the front of the hives and warms them up, and so that they can get out and forage a lot earlier. It also helps with small hive beetles and other certain pests. And then maybe some evening shade is ideal also because that 4 p.m., 5 p.m. intense sunlight on a hive can make it a little more difficult for them to thermoregulate inside this colony. Again, I don't want to get into a lot of details. This video is meant to stay very high level. But pick out an appropriate spot where you plan to have your bees and scout that spot beforehand. So make sure you do your homework. Make sure, would they be good here? Is there going to be enough sunlight in the morning here? Do they have maybe a little bit of a wind block here? Are my neighbors going to be mad if I locate them here? Things like that you need to take into consideration. How many hives you're going to have. You're going to have a hive stand because you don't want to put these on the ground. There's all sorts of different hive stands out there. There's all sorts of different ways to make your own. Do your research, hop on Google, watch some YouTube videos, get on the beekeeping websites like Better Bee and Man Lake, Dayton, some of those beekeeping websites, look at the options that they have. Go ahead and order their catalogs and flip through there. It may spur you to say, you're looking through, what is this? And then you research that. Maybe subscribe to the American Bee Journal magazine for a year just to, again, read, educate yourself as much as you possibly can. But just make sure if you do decide to get into bees, make sure to have fun with it. This is meant to be enjoyable. People think you're insane, like, well, I wouldn't want to work with, 30,000 stinging insects. I don't get lit up every day, okay? A vast majority of the time, I'm out working with my bees. Man, I'm in my own world. I'm enjoying God's beauty. It's very therapeutic. It's very calming. I'm very gentle with the bees. They're very gentle with me. Nobody's bothering me. There's no loud noises, no music, nothing. It's just me and God's beauty out there in nature, soaking it all in. It's very enjoyable. And that's to me, that's one of the bright sides of beekeeping. You know, it's a lot of work. It can be very hot at times. It's a labor of love. We, we are passionate about it. Dare I say, sometimes it's an obsession, but it's cool. And you know that you're helping the food chain, the food supply. You know that you're helping with sustainability efforts. Honeybees, Apis mellifera, is the most fascinating insect I've ever come across in my entire life. The more research you do, the more reading you do, the more you just have to marvel at God's little creatures, because as a superorganism, the things that they can do and communicate with each other and how they do it absolutely blows my mind. As an engineer, I love the science of beekeeping. You know, maybe you're a scientist or an engineer or somebody. There's a lot of science people that get into beekeeping because there's problem solving aspects with this. You know, sometimes you're not sure what's going on. You gotta figure it out. It's like solving a complex problem or equation. And, you know, we're gluttons for punishment on that type of stuff. So maybe you want the challenge. So whatever your reason is, again, find the reason that you want to become a beekeeper. And then I say, go for it. Unfortunately, beekeeping has a very low retention rate. I think it's down in like less than 20% of new beekeepers stay with beekeeping. And to me, that's discouraging. That stinks. So what can I do, and what can my fellow seasoned beak, we call beekeepers beaks for short, what can my fellow beak and the other beekeepers that have been doing this for a while, what can we do to help encourage growth and new people venturing into the art and science of beekeeping? That's what I want to do. That's the primary reason why I've created this YouTube channel. I want to help new beekeepers. I want to, set your mind at ease. I want to show you and maybe teach you things that you need to know about before you decide to get into keeping bees, and maybe some things to watch out for, and really show you that it can be a lot of fun. It can be very rewarding. I mean, every time somebody samples my honey or uses it in cooking, it makes me smile, because I know that all that hard work and time that I'm putting into this is paying off. They're really enjoying it. It's helping me with my allergies, Josh. My kids, it's helping my kids. We really enjoy this as a sweet treat on our toast or our waffles or bagel or what have you. To me, it's very rewarding. And just knowing that I'm playing my part to help pollinators in Oldham County, Kentucky, I'm helping my local farmers, helping the agricultural scene here, is the reason why I do this. To me, it's super cool, and I'm just super fascinated with bees. So hopefully you found this helpful. This was not intended to be an exhaustive, all-inclusive introductory to beekeeping, but I'm hoping you found it helpful, especially those of you that are watching this, that are on the fence, or you're considering getting into beekeeping. You're not sure if it's right for you or not. Hopefully this has maybe helped you make a decision, maybe set your mind at ease a little bit in terms of what you need, because it is overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming when you get into beekeeping, but that's normal, right? So you just have to educate yourself, kind of power through that, get your hands wet, get in there and work with the bees. That's the best way to gain experience, is time in the field. So again, hope you all enjoyed this. I welcome any comments, any questions that you may have. Go ahead and put it down in the comments. I do my best to address every single one of those. But give it a thumbs up if you like this video. I hope it was helpful. And everybody have a wonderful Christmas if I don't talk to you until then. And thanks for watching.